Up and running, and Villa Park is loud.
I don't know what happened there, but the music was going about 4 times in a row. There's something seriously wrong with my sound. Can you hear me, Kev?
I can hear you fine, mate. Yeah, let's go.
Brilliant. Sorry.
What's that?
I've just got a repeat in my ear. So anyway, welcome to the show, guys. This is the Fans Forum.
What a start! You don't get this on Sky Sports, do you?
You don't. I'm literally repeating myself 10 seconds after.
Can you try taking the headphones out, maybe? How's that? Any good?
Yeah, it's like my sound is really bad. So you can introduce the show, Kev. I'll try and log back out and log back in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fans Forum. Tonight, it's Kev on his own at the moment because Rich don't fancy it. He's doing the old technical difficulties line. So yeah, welcome to the show. As you know, this is our Monday night conversation around all talking points around Aston Villa. So as always, if you're not already giving us a subscribe or if you want to be a member of the podcast, we'd obviously absolutely love that. If you wanted to join the channel, we've got a few of you guys doing that already. Quite simply though, if you do watch the pod occasionally, please click the subscribe, give us a follow, click the bell icon because it obviously lets people know when the shows are going to be coming out. So let's see if Richie's back in now.
I know what was happening.
What's happened, Rich?
I had it on YouTube as well as on StreamYard. So when I was talking on StreamYard, it was then repeating behind on YouTube. So it was really confusing in my ear. But anyway, thank you guys for bearing with us. Yes, we had technical difficulties. We've tried going out and back in again, Steve. Yep, thank you very much, mate. We tried, but it was my stupidness that was affecting it. Good evening, Michael. Good evening, Adamski. Good evening, Deontay. And good evening, Gary. Great to have you on board for the Fans Forum. We're going to cover loads of stuff. We've obviously got Ezri Konsa to talk about. We've got the Aston Villa ladies team to talk about. We've got transfers to talk about because there was loads of questions about transfers yesterday. And we're also going to cover Aston Villa's next 5 games and what it really means for Villa moving forward because, as you said before, Kev, it is a really pivotal time for us after the international break.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if we go back in terms of Villa's history, obviously we've had an interesting last sort of 15 years or so, but I think it was back in 2009-10 season, we finished on 64 points under Martin O'Neill, finished 6th in the league. That was after getting 62 points the year before and then getting 60 points the year before. That's obviously there was an increase until obviously the wheels fell off. Last season, we got 61 with Unai Emery in his first half a season in charge. And by all accounts, with our over 2 points a game at the moment, it's looking like we're going to beat that this season if we keep that same trajectory. So we can all remember, I think, of a certain age Villa fans, that period of time where we were like, have we got a chance of breaking into the Champions League for the first time ever in terms of the new formation of the European Cup before people start to question me? I know we've been in it before and won it. But those days feel like now they are on the horizon again in terms of at least being able to talk about it. Now we've clearly got a tricky run of games coming up, but if we can come through that run of games with a few points, then I really think we can start to at least to semi-dream potentially.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into all that. Let's get your questions, your comments, and the reason why I had YouTube open on my other tab was I've pinned the link to the show, the link to the StreamYard in the chat, because I'd really love it if one of you guys or more of you guys would jump on. This is the fans forum, so we want you to come on, make your point, ask us a question, get involved in the conversation, even if it's just for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Click the link in. We don't bite, and we'd be great to have you on board. So yeah, it's at the top of the chat. Make sure you do if you do want to come on and say hello to us. We are very, very, very close now to 2,700 subscribers. I think we're about 25 subscribers away. So make sure you're smashing that like button, guys, and hit the and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And if you do want to become a member, or you do want to drop us a super chat, then hit the $ at the bottom of the chat and follow the instructions from there. But support has been tremendous. We really do want to hit 3K before Christmas, so you guys can really help us get there. And even my technical difficulties at the start aside, well, hopefully we do some good work.
That is the beauty of live broadcasting, Richard. Beauty of live broadcasting. So yeah, happens to the best out there. You know, you, Richard Keys, Dave Jones, Jeff Stelling, Sam Matterface.
Exactly, mate. Yeah. Exactly. Rachel's in the house. Good evening, Rach. Fishy Attacks is in the house. Good evening, mate. Got a question in from Stephen. We'll come to that later. What have we got here? Michael said, Kevin and Rich, get your singing voice ready. I have a new chant for Douglas Luiz to the tune chorus of Padam Padam. Well, Michael, maybe you'll have to come on and sing it to us. That would be good.
Sing it to us.
That would be great. Adamski, even if it's about lizard people, I don't know if I could get him involved in what was going on in the chat yesterday. That was just too mad. Maybe we'll do a poll on which Aston Villa player reminded us most of a lizard, maybe. So where do we want to start? Let's start with the news that we were all really buzzing about this morning, Kev. We were both at work and we were chatting about it. Mr. Ezri Konsa, Lewis Dunk pulls out of the England squad with injury, and finally, after we've been calling for it for what feels like an eternity, maybe about 12 months, Ezri Konsa gets the call up. I mean, absolutely phenomenal.
Fantastic. I'm so pleased for him. So pleased for him. So that'll mean that he'll immediately now be linked with moves to Chelsea, Man United, and Arsenal, because obviously now he's big time. But it really is reward for him, because he's gone so under the radar at the national level, and we know what an absolute quality player he's been. I still think back to that first game of the season when he obviously had that defensive error against Newcastle. And it was like, oh, God, can Konsa play without Mings? You know, was Mings the reason why Konsa was so good? He's been sensational the rest of the season. He really has been an absolute fantastic presence at the back for us. I think he's really stepped up to that kind of Mings-type role in terms of being the strong defender who basically is untroubled and nothing gets past. And that's on the back of having a great season last season. And I think since he's been with Villa, since we came to the Premier League, I think he's been largely a real quality player. So finally, I almost feel like with Gareth Southgate and what he's done to Konsa, I wish he'd had a Portuguese call-up, and then Gareth would have had to react to that Portuguese call-up. Like, I wish he'd had a bit of a bloody nose. But we are where we are.
I thought you were going to say, I wish when he got the call from Southgate, Konsa went, nah, you all right, mate.
Well, yeah, no.
In probably choicer language than that, to be honest.
Part of me wishes he had said that, but no, it's just great for him, isn't it? And it's nice to see your players get recognition. Obviously, it puts you in that kind of profile, because Villa are, as we're going to talk about shortly, in terms of what kind of season we might be able to have. But with that success comes success for the players as well. We've seen for those that weren't at the stadium, the banner for Martinez is absolutely incredible. Great job, the guys that have done that. Project B6, isn't it? I think they've put that together. It looks fantastic. He came out on the pitch. He got his award for being the Ballon d'Or best goalie, and that's the Aston Villa goalkeeper. We've now got a situation now where, if it wasn't for injury, you might well have Mings and Konsa, both of our defenders, being in the England squad. So, it's just brilliant. We've got a striker in the England squad, Watkins. Now, Luiz has finally been called to Brazil after a period of time out. We've got international quality throughout the team, and it's just great to see Ezri now get that reward.
Absolutely, absolutely. A few comments coming in. Adamski, Konsa, so happy for the lad. I also said better without Mings, probably because Mings isn't shouting orders at him. And Gary said Mings has actually helped out other centre backs improve by not playing. First point I want to make on Konsa, and then I'll come to the other couple of questions around him, is how much have you noticed in that improvement in particularly in that like kind of leadership mold, for having Mings not there? Because I've really noticed it this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mings just naturally plays that role, doesn't he? So without him being there, I think we were all worried about who was going to step up. But if you look at last season, and obviously with the question marks over McGinn at the start of last season under Gerrard, and obviously us saying that without Mings in the team, where are the leaders? Well, you look through that team now, I think you've got leaders in a lot of positions, from Emi Martinez, John McGinn. Obviously, I think Konsa has been fantastic. I even think some of the new guys that have come in, you can tell the standards that a Tielemans and a Torres have got, for example. So, yeah, I mean, I think Luca Digne, what is he, like 30 years old, international player for France, for a lot of his career. Clearly, he's got higher standards, and that just comes through the team. But someone's had to step up, and football's all about that. Like, life's about that. Are you going to take the opportunities that you've got? Are Villa going to take this opportunity when maybe the big six teams aren't as strong as they have been? Are players in our team going to step up and take the opportunity to get that starting spot and put themselves in the window? And Ezri's done that, hasn't he? I can't think of another mistake he's made other than the Newcastle game on day one. I can't think of one.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. He's kind of seems calmer. I mean, I remember a lot of the times we talk about on the podcast how he always seemed to have a go at people after the event, whereas I think at the moment he's almost telling people, where to be to prevent those situations from happening. Yesterday in terms of like marshalling that high line, he made a brilliant clearance at one point where I think it was maybe Pereira was running through. And he just looked so assured. He was running through the midfield. He was kind of almost went on that another marauding run that got him the goal in pre-season, which was fantastic. So look, it's thoroughly deserved him being in the squad. And I'm sure he'll be absolutely buzzing. One question that Gary asked is, will he be a one-cap wonder? Now, we've got Malta to come and North Macedonia to come. We know what Gareth Southgate's like. He's done this with a couple of players. He's done this with Ivan Toney. He's done it with Eddie Nketiah. Will he go through, you've got in the squad, you need to get used to how to train with the team. I'm not going to use you in any of these games, and then maybe look at you for the next squad to get some minutes, or do you think he will use him? And then off the back of that, how likely is he to get into the next squads?
Well, the answer to that question, Richard, is I ain't got a bloody clue, because Gareth Southgate wants. So apologies if that's not very good punditry from me. There you go. My view is, I'm sure like a lot of other Villa fans, is he should be an absolute mainstay of the squad. I think he's better than most of the defenders in the squad. So, I think the way he plays, he should start for England. But, so if you look at what we all think, clearly we're going to have our claret and blue tinted glasses on. Who knows? I'd like to think he gets some kind of minutes in one of those games, and I don't want to see him on an Under the Kosh podcast in 15 years saying how he was, he was on the bench for England and he nearly came on, and then all of a sudden, you see those sort of like old interviews, don't you? Saying I nearly got on the pitch. Other thing I was going to say about Konsa was you can see also the development in his game even this season, because he wouldn't have been doing from that Brentford run in pre-season, and obviously you just referred to, but. If you notice now, it's almost that Pau Torres-esque of pretending to play the ball, going the other way, just stepping away from the attackers, and the confidence that he's got now to bring the ball out of defence is just. It was Mings doing that last year. It wasn't Konsa. Mings is the one doing that and spraying it out to Digne usually, or Moreno. Now Konsa's doing it as well, and that just brings an extra level of just support to that midfield. So yeah, I just think he's been fantastic, and I really hope he gets on that pitch. I'm going to feel like I did when Jack. Remember when Jack?
Yeah, like a proud dad.
Like he's old man. Yeah, I'm going to feel like that. And Probably old enough to be his dad, which makes me feel incredibly old. How old's Cos? He's 26, so I'm
26.
42. I mean, from where I'm from in Birmingham, Ward End, I could easily be a 15-year-old dad, so but probably a bit young.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It is brilliant and thoroughly deserved. A couple more comments coming in with regards to the situation. I think Black Run made a good point. Brilliant news for Konsa, but it feels like Villa players have to try twice as hard to get into the England squad. Look at the ridiculous situation with Grealish. Do you get that impression, or is that kind of a Villa tinted glasses? Do you think a number of clubs would have that feeling?
I'll be interested to know if other clubs do have that feeling. Let's try and think live on a podcast. We've already basically buggered up the first 3 minutes by you forgetting you had YouTube on in the background. So yeah, anyone that missed the start, don't bother watching the first 3 minutes. Okay, think about like a West Ham, for example. Ward-Prowse isn't in the squad. A lot of calls for him to be in the squad. I think Bowen is in the squad. But if you look at players like that, probably should be in the squad. Who else can you say? Cole Palmer.
Sterling's not been in for a while.
Cole
Palmer got called in today.
Yeah, Sterling's obviously had quite a stellar England career. Played a lot of games for England, scored a few goals. So not like he's never had a chance, but you could argue is he unlucky? But Cole Palmer's in, had a good start to the season, probably deserves an opportunity. I can't think of many other players, but then how well do we know
Newcastle from living in Newcastle? They were kind of not clamouring, but mentioning Sean Longstaff in a lot of conversations. Dan Burns obviously had a lot of conversations around him, but he's playing left back, so it's difficult in terms of not playing centre back. But yeah, certainly the Longstaff, Anthony Gordon has had a lot of talk whether he would get into the squad. So there are a few, and I mean Gary says Southgate has been lucky. He's got probably 2 full squads of class players to work with. Otherwise he would have gone now. And we've said this before, it gets exacerbated by the fact that he keeps picking the likes of Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips, who aren't really playing for their clubs, or Jordan Henderson is playing in the Saudi League. When you think, what does he not know about Jordan Henderson that he couldn't find out from a Sean Longstaff, for example? Yeah. And that's what gets on supporters' nerves.
Yeah, there's always going to be a situation, isn't there, where like you're going to have players and you're always going to know more about your own club. But I totally agree. I mean, it feels like it took obviously quite a bit of time for Tomori to get his chance as well when he was obviously playing, top level football, wasn't he, Tomori? But then you look at it, Mark Gay, he's getting a chance now. Obviously he wasn't in for a bit. Dunk took a bit of time, I think, to get his opportunity in the squad.
Did.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there does seem like we've got a bit of a dearth of midfielders there, doesn't it? Because obviously if there's any injuries to Bellingham, if you look at that squad, you've got Rice, Phillips, Gallagher, Henderson and Trent. So, when you're lacking, I guess technically you've got forward players, but in terms of those midfield spots, so it shows that Bellingham is an absolutely pivotal. And who's the other Bellingham option? Basically, I mean, in world football, though, probably a lot of people are saying that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary makes a good point. At least it will be worth watching now.
Definitely. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Marine Boy says Southgate is not picking both Mings and Konsa.
So I was going to say, it'll just be like Southgate. If Watkins is playing, he won't bring on Konsa at the same time as Watkins. He'll be like, Watkins can come off first, and then 2 minutes later we'll bring on Konsa just to prove a point to Villa fans.
You can only have one Villa player on at a time.
Yeah.
CC said, I think it's a great opportunity for Southgate and coaches to take a closer look at him, and what a lift for him too, as he has worked so hard to get where he is now. I mean, you said Portugal, and he must have had a consideration to declare himself, available for Portugal, but he's backed himself to get into the England squad.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. I mean, the fact he's had that opportunity to even be on there. Who knows what goes on in the background? I'm sure, I don't know too much about Portugal's centre-back situation right now. They've obviously got some pretty well-known players that play in that position, obviously a quality international team, but I think with the form he's showing, I think he could have had an argument to get in any national team. He's playing at the top end of the Premier League for a team that are going to be in the Champions League next season. So, apologies. When you're playing that level of football, then you deserve to get an opportunity.
Yeah. CC said, I don't think Villa have to try harder than any below the top 5 teams. Strange but true, Gary says. But Villa have produced more players for England than any other team, I believe. I know that was the case. Maybe I don't know if it's still the case now, but I know it certainly was the case. CC saying, I don't mind Henderson as I think he brings an old hand in amongst a younger squad and is clearly also at the tail end of his career. It's just that he starts. That's the Fishy Attack said, how the hell did that young lad from Man City get a call up to England squad before Ward-Prowse? Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise, but yeah, I think Rico Lewis is a good player, slightly different player, but yeah, I think Ward-Prowse can count himself very unlucky, to be honest. At the moment,
different types of player, but I think Ward-Prowse he's got the best delivery in the Premier League. Fact. So but is that enough? I mean, I think he's played really well for West Ham this season, and I think he probably deserves an opportunity. Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, Perry Groves on TalkSport was saying, like, if you look at his last 3 seasons, though, he scored something like 8 goals for Southampton one season, then 9 goals for Southampton another season, then another 9 goals, and then he's got 3 this season or something, and 9 assists. So it's not as if he's not producing other numbers, which is weird. So yeah. Can
I just say one quick point on England as well? I don't feel like I want to give Southgate too much credit, but he did make a point in the press conference the other day about Sterling, like, well, who do I leave out? And I think if you look through the squad, you could probably argue easy answer on some of them, but it's not always that simple, because if you put in all the players that we all clamour for, if you were to put in, obviously before Konsa were getting in, but a Konsa and a Ward-Prowse and, maybe a Longstaff, then you've got to leave other players out, haven't you? So, it's always easy, isn't it, to pick a player that's not in the squad.
Yeah. And you always think that your player deserves it more than someone else. I do understand that, and it's never. You're always going to annoy some club supporters. I do agree, but I just think that with England, we kind of know we're going to qualify at any one point, and you're not going to learn anything new from. A Maguire playing, a Henderson playing. I've already said this. I think out of a 22-man squad for friendlies or easier qualifying games, he should pick 10 players who he knows are out of his core squad and 10 new players. And then the next squad, pick the other 10 players out of your core squad and then 10 new players, because he's got the capabilities to do it. Otherwise, you're just not going to find out anything about the current players that you've got potentially challenging for the squad. I've got a few comments here about JJ about Ramsey. I mean, it's a difficult one to kind of like quantify, but do you think that we could have had, if he'd have been fit, do you think we'd have had a claim to have 3 Villa players in the England squad?
Yeah, I think Ramsey, if he'd have kept going on the path he'd been on, I think he would have been really knocking on that door. I mean, competition. Can I just say on that point, by the way, Gary, great bant, but I think I've got a better one. What about Ezri Konsa? Balls, I'll have that. Ramsey he reminds me a little bit actually Cole Palmer, the way he's been playing. I've Ramsey quick on the ball, going past people, cool head. So maybe he's bad news actually for Ramsey's England ambitions, but he's just got to get back fit, hasn't he? And then try and get back in the team and keep doing what he was doing before. But he's got a really bright future, that boy.
He has. And just to finish on the England stuff, Marine Boy said, how many Villa players were in the 1982 England World Cup squad? And Villa had just won the league and were European Championships. It was 1, and that was Peter With.
Shocking.
So yeah, just shows you, doesn't it? Yeah. Should it be made mandatory that if you don't play for the first team, you don't play for England?
Yeah, I think the problem you've got with that is in modern football that define playing for the first team. Or I played in the Carabao Cup the other night. I played in Europe this week. I came on for 20 minutes. So what did you do? Like a number of minutes means it's a nice idea, but I think that'd be pretty difficult to put in place. Yeah,
agreed. Well, look, congratulations to Ezri. Fantastic news. And great. I hope he gets on in both games. I'm sure we'll feature in at least one of them, but it'd be brilliant for him to actually get a start as well. So, yeah, and as Gary said, it'd be definitely worth watching now with Watkins and Konsa in the squad. Guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We've got a good number watching already at 10:30, nearly 10:30 at night, which is fantastic. So we want to get more people involved. So like, subscribe, and keep your comments flowing. Next part we wanted to talk about is next 5 games. I know you've teased it, Kev, before, and yeah, we're in a real good position at the moment, 5th in the table, 3 points off top. I think almost that Forest game and kind of missing that opportunity, as we want to say, to get into those top echelons of the league might have served us a good lesson, because maybe the players kind of saw that they had potentially had a taste for it, but then obviously missed out on an opportunity. They don't want to miss out on it again. I'm going to share my screen just to look at FOTMob in terms of our next fixtures, but I'm sure everybody knows them. But we've got Tottenham away on the Sunday, the 26th of November. Obviously, Legia Warsaw in between away at Bournemouth. So 2 away games to follow in a row. And then we've got a home game on Wednesday, the 6th of December against Manchester City, and then a home game against Arsenal on the 9th of December. So we're looking at Tottenham, Bournemouth, Man City, Arsenal. And then if we go to up to Brentford on Sunday, the 17th of December, what are you anticipating, and what are you hoping for out of those next 5 league games?
Well, I feel like every single Premier League game now, you could argue, it's not going to be an easy one. Sheffield United have got 4 points from the last 2 games. You could always put an argument together, couldn't you? It's never going to be easy, even a promoted team. Look at Luton against Liverpool. So no matter what happens, you're going to struggle. We can look from Villa fans, I think, at the following points. There is never going to be a better time to play Spurs with their injuries and suspensions when we play them. So that's as good as it can be. And more importantly, on the back of 2 defeats. So, again, can you argue that they'd bounce back from that? But I feel like they're kind of impenetrable, kind of false field around them. The best start ever of a team, blah, 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 has now been, that balloon's been slightly burst. Although, a big fan of Ange. I think he's done a great job and a great guy. So that's pretty good. Is there a better time to play Man City when we have to win that game if you want to break the record of consecutive home wins? So there's an extra carrot under the lights, Villa Park, went on a Wednesday night. Arsenal, I feel like we owe them one after a couple of recent games. We had the hoodoo on them a little bit under Dean Smith, but they're not quite what they were last season in terms of the force. So again, I fancy us at home, Villa Park, against anybody. Bournemouth have had a little bit of resurgence, 2 wins out of the last 3, but you're looking at Bournemouth and Brentford away, and you'd think, well, Brentford are a good team, decent team, but you'd think if you get 4 points from those 2 games, Spurs, Man City, Arsenal, if you could get 4 points, you get 8 points from those 5 games, I think you'd be pretty happy, I think, in terms of however that came around, whether that's 3 wins, maybe get 9 points, or 2 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah. There's certainly big opportunities. And I said yesterday on last night's show, if we can, the only mild criticism that any pundit or any other club supporter could lay at us for the 13 home wins in a row is the fact that we haven't done it against Liverpool, Arsenal, or Man City. That's probably the only criticism that could be laid at our door.
We haven't played him, have we? We haven't played him in those games.
No, I am in full agreement with you. But it's just that would put any doubt, to bed of, like, if we could, like you said, we break the record. We've beaten Man City at Villa Park. That is like 14 home wins in a row. Beat Man City at home. Like, swivel on that, basically. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Because people can still say, oh, well, you've got 30 home wins in a row, but, yes, you've played Newcastle, yes, you played Tottenham, or yes, you played West Ham, but you haven't beaten Man City, you haven't beaten Arsenal. So
I think you're absolutely right. And if you look at what Newcastle have done beating Arsenal this season, that statement win they had, obviously, against PSG which was obviously absolutely magic, for all the Geordies. What a night that was. And that is the kind of thing where I know Villa had the statement win Brighton 6-1. I mean, Brighton have been a fantastic team, so we have to look at that and say that's a real performance. West Ham 4-1, great performance. Newcastle last season clearly was a really, really big win. We've beaten Spurs. Obviously, we've beaten Chelsea. We've beaten teams like that who are good teams, but maybe not what they were. Spurs this season obviously will be a different argument.
Mm-hmm.
We beat Man United last season, but to get a win against the big teams, even that Liverpool win we got, was a bit of an anomaly, wasn't it? That 7-2. It was fantastic, and I'll never forget it. But to beat Liverpool, if we beat Liverpool, Man City or Arsenal now, I think that would really send a statement about meaning business, because it's all well and good having this start, but if we lose to Tottenham, Arsenal, Man City, then it really just kind of burst our balloon, doesn't it? Then, so yeah, and I think Unai will be fully aware of that.
Yeah, 100%. Marine Boy says we owe Spurs. Gary said playing Spurs at the right time for me. Stephen Van Leer says first time in years. I'm actually looking forward to the Spurs game. James Woodcock in the house says got to be 8 points minimum from the next 5 games to keep the chase with the top 4. Personally, he'd be satisfied with 6 points. Fishy Attack says I don't think we'll lose any of the next 5 games. Gary saying going for 3 in a row at theirs. I think that's Spurs, is it? CC has said I don't like to look too far ahead, as one of our main goals needs to be consistency, which means our away form needs to improve. Yeah. I'm going to keep that one. I'm just going to go through a couple of more comments. Michael said Richard, 1 game at a time. Yes, Michael, but we've got a dream. We've got a dream, mate. We've got a dream. Where else have we got? Gary said Man City have our number, but no reason why we can't give it a go. And until recently, we had a good record against Arsenal. Yeah, exactly. Michael said we play the same teams as everyone else. Yeah, we absolutely do. Rachel said if we could at least be competitive, and I mean not just stick in the game, I could live with that. What's this? 1983, 40 years. I wonder how many games Villa have played in total since the last 13 wins. We'll get on to AVFC Stato. I'm sure he'll be able to tell us. Blackroom said confidence and consistency tend to work together, and at home we're a force. So I think we can give a good battle against Man City, etc. Gary said we have a buffer in fifth, so we can lose one and still be 5th. Exactly. Really randoms in the house, evening all. Great to have you on board. CC says Spurs is going to be really interesting as it will be high line versus higher line. Yeah, you told us 3-1. And Bissouma is out as well. Yep. So we've got a good opportunity to play Spurs. Now, what I was going to point to with the away games, and CC's pointed there, both teams like to play a high line in terms of Spurs and Villa. But do you think Emery is potentially looking at tempering his kind of tactics away from home based on the form that we've had to maybe go back to how we were last season, a little bit more containment, a little bit more utilising pace on the break? Or do you think he'll continue with that high line and possession-based football trying to play in the other team's half?
Second time in this podcast, mate, but I've really got no idea.
Because
Cheers,
Kev. See you later, everyone.
Thanks all. Nice to see you. The logic says go back to what was working previously when we won like 4 or 5 away games in a row, didn't we? Was it something like that? At least I know Watkins scored in consecutive ones. And I think that's quite effective. And actually, when you're playing away from home, you expect to have a bit less of the ball. And therefore, you can do what we're really good at now. As you saw from that 3rd goal of the weekend against Fulham, we can counter-attack really well with the players that we've got. But then you play Nottingham Forest, who are no mugs at home, and you have 75% of the possession pretty much. Then, maybe that's the way Unai wants it now. We dictate the ball. We create the chances. We basically take the game to people like the big teams do. But I'd probably feel a bit safer if when we got Spurs away, we played it a bit tighter and we didn't try and match their massively high line too much. But Unai will do Unai things. So I mean, Mister's magic.
Exactly. And I do think, though, that in some ways it would suit maybe a Diaby. It would suit maybe a Bailey. And maybe even a Tielemans, to play in that slightly more containing method to then kind of spring teams out on the break. You know, I can just picture Tielemans picking up the ball on the half turn and then just playing a first time pass over the top to Diaby, and he's all of a sudden clear. I can see that happening. Whereas I think sometimes we could be a little bit stifled away from home, where we're having so much of the ball, but we still haven't quite got that player who's going to, I guess, create a moment through the middle of the pitch in terms of maybe beating someone or getting, you know, or picking up the ball on the half turn, you know, in that sort of attacking third area to then slip it through to a Watkins or a Diaby. Whereas I think if we could kind of, like I say, drop our line by maybe 20 yards, then it gives us a little bit more scope to get in behind teams.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And it just feels like the logical thing to do, doesn't it? But it's not worked too badly for Unai so far, doing what he wants to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Clearly, we have to have a view on what we think would work well. And but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, would we have expected to have the away run of wins we had last season when we did? No. Would we have expected to have the home run that we've had? No. And this season, we've still had, we've still beat Burnley away. We beat Chelsea away. Obviously, we've played 2 tough games in terms of Liverpool and Newcastle. Anyone could lose at those games, and many will. The disappointing ones, obviously, has been Forest. Wasn't great. What was the other one? Wolves away. And again, I think if you look at both those games,
that's looking like a better result every week.
I totally agree. Well, I think for them and for us, I think both teams can be pretty happy with the point in terms of the form we're in and obviously how well they're doing. So really, to get a point away at Molineux, the way they're playing, yeah, the blip has been obviously Forest added to Liverpool and Newcastle, hasn't it, really?
Yeah. Rachel said it's harder to do it as an opposition's home, which should be their fortress, whether it is or not. Yeah, I agree. You've got to first contain the the home fans, and kind of quieten them down. I do agree with that. But in theory, we should be able to, impart our own style of play on that team. It's the same dimensions of pitch. Really random as saying he thinks that the fans are playing a part in the home wins. Our away fans are incredible. I've been with them many times, but it's nothing like the whole 10 roaring. Well, look, that's exactly what Emery wanted to turn Villa Park into, and he certainly managed to do that. And it is very, very difficult as a manager to get both home and away kind of in sync at the same time. You're always going to have a little bit of a drop off, but I think if we can continue that fortress Villa Park, then that just gives the players more confidence to go away from home and play, naturally and the natural game. If we can pick like 9-10 wins away from home and win pretty much all of our home games, then we're going to be very, very close to that top 4 position. Absolutely. Really random says, guys, let it sink in a second. We're approaching Christmas, 3 points off top and have 2 to play above us. We're in a title race. So, Kev, before we move on to the next topic, you kind of teased it before, but how many points are you thinking next 5 games? How many points are you kind of thinking that you'd be happy with us and would really set us up for that top 4 charge?
Well, I'm going to fancy us to beat one of Man City or Arsenal at home. I'm going to say that now. I think we'll lose one and we'll win one of those games. And I really hope it's Man City we beat so we can get the record. Although knowing Unai, if we lose that, he'll just win the next 13 after that at home. I think we've got to fancy ourselves to beat Spurs away. The fact they've lost the last 2, they're injury ravaged. We're going to have an international break, of being able to recuperate. Although the more players you get called up, the less recuperation they maybe get. And I'm going to fancy us to get a win and a draw away at the 2 games against Bournemouth and Brentford. So that's what 4 points, 7 plus 10 points I've given us there. I think
that's amazing.
I'll be delighted with that. I honestly think if we got out of those 5 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 defeat, I think you'd be delighted with that. But then if you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, you could lose to Man City and Arsenal. If you got 9 points from the other games, you're probably pretty happy as well, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd be really happy with something around 8 or 9 points. I really would. Like, what are we on now? 25? If we could come out of those next five games on something around 33, 34 points. Judging by the level of opposition we're facing, I'd be absolutely buzzing with that. And I think a lot will tell into those next two, the Spurs away, and Bournemouth away. I think a lot will tell into that. I think I watched Bournemouth play against Newcastle, and obviously Newcastle have got a hell of a lot of injuries at the moment, and they did look jaded. I don't think we will approach that game like we did last season under Gerrard and like Newcastle did. I think we'll be very, very controlled in that game.
Yeah.
I think the Tottenham game is a really interesting one, because do you still go for it in terms of, do you go for it with the fact that they've got injuries, or do you still kind of pay them the respect of like they're third or fourth at the moment? So yeah, they're going to be so interesting, because that really does take whatever confidence we can garner. If we could get 4 points from those two games, whether it be beat Spurs, draw against Bournemouth, or vice versa, that gives us a phenomenal platform to go into the next two home games against Man City and Arsenal.
Yeah, it really does. And if it is that 9 points that I said, ish, you've just said 9 points, that would then be after 17 games, 34 points. That's 2 points a game average across pretty much half the season, which would be absolutely incredible. I mean, to think that 34 points would be a figure that some teams have stayed up in the Premier League in, and we'd be midway through December. The best thing about that as well is if you get through those 5 games, then after that, the next game after that, which we're going to keep going, but you've got Sheffield United at home, Man United away, pretty confident we'll win that, and then Burnley at home. So you've got 3 very winnable games there against 3 pretty average teams, jokes. But I know Man United keep grinding out 1-0 wins, and clearly that's not an easy place to go. And we've not got a particularly good record, a couple of wins in 30-odd years there. So, but look, you're looking at teams now and you're thinking, only teams that really worry me are Newcastle away, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. Other than that, no away games easy in the Premier League. We'll get a few more bloody noses, I'm sure. But we have to dream. What's the point? What's the point in being alive if you can't dream? I get it, game by game. Let's see what happens. But game by game is a bit boring, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got to dream. So many teams will be doing it in our position, and we're finally getting that credit as well. No, I'd say finally. That's like as if I'm kind of like either expecting it or we've not had any yet. But I just think to get that focus a bit on Match of the Day last night, I don't know if you saw it, where Alan Shearer's really given us a lot of credit. Ian Wright was kind of giving us a lot of credit as well. But I know, and pundits alike, journalists are starting to really take notice of where we are, because we've just been so consistent, and it almost takes 2 or 3 of the teams below us to lose. Newcastle obviously got beat, Brighton dropped points, and 1 or 2 others, the clubs above us dropped points as well. Man City dropped points. It took that to happen for people to go, do you know what? Villa are still hanging around there. What's going on? What are they doing?
Yeah, particularly after that start, particularly after that absolute battle. You see the grief we're getting in the chat here. This is the point. Like you thought it would be Brighton.
It's Michael, man. It's Michael. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it.
He's feeling like it's the jinx, isn't
he?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they might have thought it would be Brighton and Newcastle. That would be there, or maybe a West Ham, obviously on the back of the summer signings and obviously winning Europe. But we're the ones hanging around, not just hanging around. We're right amongst it. If you look at the form guide, Man City have dropped points in 3 out of the last 6 games. I think we've got the best recent form up there, along with Arsenal.
It's Man United, isn't it?
Well, but they lost 2 before, didn't they? So I think they've got 12 points.
Okay.
At the last 6, we've got 13. Have we something like that? We've got we've when I looked at it the other day, I thought ours was as good as anybody.
Last 5 games, we've won 3, drawn 1, and lost 1.
Yeah.
So we got 10 points from the last 5. Man United have got 12 points from the last 5.
Yeah, the last 6, I think we won the one before that, and they lost that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. I think that probably, I don't know who that would have been, but yeah. I think we're similar to Liverpool. Have got slightly better form than us from 5 games, and Man United have got better form than us from 5 games. In fact, Liverpool 9, 10, 11. Yeah, Liverpool got 11. So look, we're well up there. We're so consistent. That's the point I'm making. We're so consistent, and it's almost as if like people have gone, wow, I was expecting Villa to drop off. I was really expecting to drop, but they just keep winning. Oh, we're probably gonna have to take notice of them now.
Yeah.
Like, and I really think if we can beat, like I say, if we can beat one of those teams, whether it be Man City or Arsenal, that will really put us in the shop window to be contenders.
And you're going to like this next bit, Rich. I think Michael, particularly, and Gary are going to like this next bit. But once you've won those easy games I mentioned, obviously against Burnley, Sheffield United, and Man United, you then go into January. You've got Everton away, Newcastle at home. You fancy chances. February, you've got Sheffield United away, Man United at home, Fulham, Forest at home. So I think getting on for March, this title race, that's when it gets really interesting. March, April time.
We're going to win them all, Kev. That's it. We're going to win them all.
Are we going to lose again? Remember that feeling we had recently? We're going to lose again. And we all put the telly on Super Sunday, play Forest, and we're like, Jesus Christ, we've conceded.
I know. We're going to...
No,
let's keep positive. Really random said Unai keeps playing it down, which is good. I think in public he'll be doing that. In private, I'm sure he'll be saying we need to go and win every game. So yeah, Stephen says Spurs game will either be 6-6 or 0-0. Yeah. Gary's saying let us be happy. Absolutely, mate. Really random says saying others are more a contender than us, but we can do something. Yes, absolutely. CC was watching a podcast that had a mix of Man United, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, and Chelsea fans. I think it's the 12-man podcast. It's a good podcast. I've been on with a few of those lads on their own individual ones. So yeah, it's really good. At one point, they stopped to see when their team was playing us. It's good to see teams don't want to play us. Exactly. Marine Boy said, as long as we keep that gap to 6th place, yes. Gary said 5th is a possibility, no doubt, but the title push is madness.
Get out of town. We can do this, Gary.
Really random said, I think we're the highest scoring team in the league too. I think it's Man City now, but yeah, we're second. Out of 8 games, we have the best form, says Rachel. Steve says, I was looking at the fixtures at the halfway stage. We will have played most of the top 12 away from home. Arsenal, City, Brighton, West Ham are the only ones remaining, plus Palace.
This is the kind of comments I like. Those ones buying into the dream, buying into it. I feel like a Scientologist, and I've kind of got a few of them on my little train. Like, come on, we can do this. Like, come on, we can take the world over.
Gary said, we don't have the bad runs anymore, unlike me after a dodgy curry.
Yes, thanks,
what an image that is. And yeah, Michael said he gets it. And at the start of the season, we should be aiming for top 4. Well, look, it's happening. We are aiming for it, Michael. We are aiming for it. Cool. All right, brilliant topic there. Brilliant topic. It's great to dream. It really, really is. Now, to help us get into that top 4, let's talk a little bit about transfers, because we covered it. We touched on it a little bit yesterday. We had quite a few questions coming in as well last night's show, and we spoke about it this afternoon. What do you think we need? Where do you think we need to strengthen to push on for that top 4? Now, Rachel's saying that it's not the best window for business, January. She's saying a right back, possibly a new goalkeeper and a striker. Would mostly be done in the summer, she would thinks. But yes, she's saying a right back possibly in January, but a new goalkeeper striker would probably most likely be done in the summer. Where do you stand on transfers? Yeah, I'll answer you that question, and I'll give my kind of thoughts in a second.
So I think in this kind of era now, they'll obviously have players that probably have had lined up in summer for whatever reason they couldn't get the deal over the line. Maybe it was moving people on, maybe it was FFP, maybe it was availability of players, maybe it was players being involved in Europe with their team and wanted to do certain things, etc. So I think that there'll probably be some of those people they had in their sites that might well then now be available in January. Perhaps the price will be different, perhaps it'll be more agreeable in terms of obviously, what we're trying to do as a team. So we've moved off from that now, Gary. Don't worry, we're having a bit of fun. I do think if you look at the squad where the weaknesses are, they're not as weak as we thought they were. I.e., right back, we've actually coped pretty well with Konsa playing there at times. Left back, Not that it's happened loads because Dini's been pretty much in ever present, but you've obviously got Moreno back now, so it's less chance of obviously having to be power filling in there. But I do feel like the right back area is probably one area where, look, I've got a lot of love for Matty Cash. I think, love that marauding defensive run he did and then slid in to get that tackle. But possibly going forward as a bit of a lack of quality. We discussed it on the wonderful show we did last night in terms of the post-match discussion. But the fact is, at the left-hand side, it's a bit more fluid. We go forward a bit better. And on the right-hand side, on the right flank, it's not quite as good. That feels an obvious one for me. What's going on with Duran? Who knows? He could come back into the team and make a big impact at the end of the season. But I do feel like potentially if we get another forward, just to support the squad, just to give a little bit of an opportunity, because you get an injury. Let's be clear. If you're in the last stages of the Conference League, maybe the FA Cup, you're pushing for, even if it's not top 4, we want to get back in Europe again. So don't guarantee we're going to win the Conference League. We want to be finishing top 7, worst case scenario, right? So if we are kicking around those positions and then Watkins gets an injury, that could totally scupper our season. It's a big risk. So I would expect if there's going to be 2 areas, it's going to be striker or right back. You could argue midfield as well. Possibly, I think, another defensive midfielder because you haven't got much kind of cover in that area. And is there going to be a wild card signing, a Goncalves or a Williams maybe from Spain? So that's where I can see it basically. But what's your third theory, mate?
I agree with, I'll come to loads of comments in a second, but I really agree with what CC has said here. I only want quality. I don't like us making bad deals. So if a good loan or a free comes up, great. I think we'll be offloading some players like Traore. Now, I do think 1 or 2 will go to trim the squad, but again, Rachel said this earlier, January is a difficult time to buy. I don't want to buy shit. I don't want to buy players just to make up bodies in the squad. If we are in a position whereby we're talking pushing for top 4, top 5, winning a competition, that player or players that we bring in have to put us on the road to getting into those tournaments or getting into that position of top 4 or help us to win a tournament. Now, those players won't come cheap. Those players are going to cost a lot of money. You're not going to do it by getting someone who's not getting in their current team across Europe or in the Premier League. This is just not going to happen. So it's a really, really tricky one because you want to sign players that are going to increase the quality of your squad, and it's difficult to understand whether that's available to do in January or not, because essentially what you're going to be looking at is players that you could potentially get someone that's going to be out of contract at the end of the season, and you might be able to get them earlier on a slightly cheaper price, but then they're probably going to wait till the contract runs out to get more wages. So you're really only going to get someone who wants a loan move because they're not getting first team football, or he's been put on the transfer list by their own club. It's or potentially, like you said, a deal that's already been agreed, but I'm not seeing us kind of making any moves or potential things in the rumor mill that has been done other than that lad at is it left back or right back, the Argentinian guy that we nearly signed from Seville?
Acuna, and that might be that Digne, as well as Digne's being, maybe we get the money for him that he's probably still got. I mean, that's probably one thing that's helped. I mean, it's crazy to think he's been one of our best players this season, but he might go, and I think a lot of us would probably be quite happy with the deal if it helped with FFP at the age he is. If you got a good, 15, 20 million for him, and you brought in an Acuna for a couple of seasons with Moreno, I think we'd probably be quite happy with that as a deal. Crazy as it sounds. I think we're beyond the days though of doing those Dendoncker, Bednarek, Boer Baston, Danny Drinkwater type deals. I think we're beyond that. If you look at the summer business, it's pretty good, to be fair, wasn't it? It was pretty good.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic, but I'm not 100% sure that we'll get great business done. I mean, we thought Coutinho was great business in that January. Luca Dean's turned out to be decent business from that January window. But other than that, Sanson didn't turn out very well. Obviously, the players that you mentioned when we were desperate for signings, but there's not been. It's just difficult. It's really difficult to get someone who's going to hit the ground running. Maybe does a Wilfred Ndidi add any quality? Does an Iheanacho add any quality? Adds an extra option. But are they going to get you into the Champions League? Are they going to get you winning a tournament? That's my point. You know, they're obviously Premier League quality in terms of what they can potentially offer you, but if you're looking in the Premier League, you're only going to get a player who isn't getting in their team. That's what you're going to do. So do you take someone from I don't know, who do you take someone from a Man United? I'm thinking of like a Jadon Sancho situation. Do you take someone like that who's not getting in the team, clearly fallen out of favour, to bring him into your team, or someone of that ilk? Do you take someone like an Emile Smith-Rowe from Arsenal?
Yeah,
do you take someone like that?
I think you've got to look at what we've got, right? And if Buendia, if the rumours are true, is going to be back possibly February, which would be an unbelievable turnaround. Look, all depends. Yeah, I know. Great gag, to be fair. No, indeedy, rather than yes, indeedy. Yeah, very good. That's gag of the night, that is. Well done, Gary. Well done, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing Gary in stand-up one day. Yeah, let us know when you're doing a gig, guys. I'll do a warm-up for you if you want for a couple of minutes. Yeah, I look at situations of like some of those players you mentioned, right? And you know, Zaniolo, I still think will come good for us. Bailey's been a lot more productive this season. Obviously, Diaby's dropped off a little bit lately, but possibly to be expected. New to the league.
I was going to ask you about that because Shareek's asked that about Diaby dropping off.
Yeah. So you could argue maybe there is opportunity for that attacking player, but Ramsey should be back pretty soon, and he definitely adds a bit of quality and competition there. If Buendia's back then at the end of the January transfer, I mean, who knows? It might be that he's not back till next season. But you add a Buendia and a Ramsey to that. Do you need a Smith-Rowe? Do you need a Sancho? I don't think we go for a Sancho. If all the rumours are about, and I know it's rumours, whatever, but if all the rumours are about his attitude, which I feel like I made the same point yesterday around Duran. I don't know for certain about Sancho before everyone gives me a bit of grief, but I can't see that being an Unai type player. The question is, where do you get it from? But let's not forget the discussion we had a few months back, and I think in the summer window, we've got Monchi, and he's supposed to be the guy that knows what he's doing.
The man with the contact book, yeah.
Yeah, we've got lots of other kind of like contacts around there in terms of the football management infrastructure. And you'd like to think if there's a good player available from La Liga or from maybe the Portuguese league, that we've got that lined up. And can Villa's, the might of Aston Villa, if we're in a good position, can we seduce and entice a leading player from one of those teams? You've only got to see what Brighton do with some of their recruitment to realise that there are some gems of players out there. And we know there's an amount of quality. Who knows how well some of these players' teams are doing in January? And maybe the club think, you know what, we'll cash in. We'll cash in. We'll take the money from Villa right now. Villa want to get the player in to kick on and push forward. Newcastle did it really well to stay in the Premier League, didn't they, that season when they got in Trippier and Byrne and I don't know if Guimaraes was at the same time. I think he maybe was. And these players,
he didn't get straight in the side though, but yeah, he was at that time.
So,
look, there's loads of examples of some really good January transfer business done. There is.
Yeah. So why not? And I think that the thing is, if you're going for these kind of players, you need to make yourself as attractive as you can. If there is a player in the league that's going to go to a team, and Aston Villa are knocking on the top 5-6 spots in the league still, and still in the Conference League, you've got an opportunity to win a trophy. Look at that.
Agreed. Yeah. Adamski said another Buendia type creative attacking midfielder might help for depth and options too as well. The obvious positions we need to strengthen in a second experienced striker, etc. Marine Boy said, let's just raid that Spanish or Portuguese markets, maybe one signing in Jan and a couple in the summer. Shareek, I'll come to the Diaby point in a second because I want to make it around a different around the whole squad. He would also like a different profile central midfielder as a squad player that is more of a physical runner. Mario Lemina of Wolves type player.
Good player.
Few bit of chat on Duran and kind of judging him. Adamski said he likes having Traore in the squad. He's decent cover and seems happy to be a bit part player. You can't sign superstars and give them 7 minutes at the end of matches. Exactly. Gary said we should get someone early January and spend big. Yes, Moreno played tonight. Yes, he did. He got 60 minutes. James says no way, Sancho. Wages massive. Adamski said he'd take Iheanacho. Has anyone seen the stat that Emery has never signed an English player? Oh, wow. ESR, Emile Smith Rowe is too injury prone for Rachel for now. And I don't think he'd be worth the money or player Arsenal would want for him. Yes, I agree. Smith Rowe didn't want to join Villa when he joined Arsenal, says Marine Boy, so I think we can move on from that. What have we got here? Adam says Brighton scouts be like, we're near London, but there's a beach. Players go to the beach and see rocks instead of sand. Marcus put the song in. I don't know what Padam song is, though, to be honest. Rub says he's in the house. I think we will get more complimentary squad players in January, people who are willing to come for a rotation role. Big transfers in the summer. And Gary says can't have Dendoncker and Chambers stinking out the place. So that links to my point on the counter about quality, because it was noticeable. Obviously, I think Moreno playing 60 minutes today probably links to the fact that he probably wasn't ready for to be brought on. Probably just good to be in with the warm up with the first team and all that kind of stuff. But only one sub was made yesterday, and it was kind of clear to see the last 10 minutes that players were looking a little bit jaded. Emery didn't really want to bring any subs on. So that tells me a lot about what he thinks about the quality of the players that are on the bench. Now, that's one point. And then the second point is around the Diaby point is, do you think that Diaby is just suffering a little bit from the fact that we've got, Ramsey isn't fit. He's coming back fit. Obviously, Buendia's out. Potentially, he could come back in more into the new year. I guess that kind of extra competition. Do you think that might spur a Diaby on, or allow Emery to kind of mix and match to keep his freshness up? So yeah, 2 points around kind of the backup. Adding backup players that are better than the current backup players we've got, and then players coming back into the squad to kind of take the load off, say, a Diaby when he might be struggling for form a little bit.
Yeah, like I said just previously, I think there's a reality to any player coming to the league. He had a really good start, didn't he, actually, Diaby? Scored in his first game, started off pretty well. He's got a few goals, but that drop-off is probably to be expected. Certainly helps if you've got a Ramsey back in there, obviously, with Tielemans stepping up as well lately. So I think that really, really helps the situation. Certainly helps when you've got the likes of a Duran when he was earlier in the season, contributing with, obviously the goals he scored against, it was Palace, wasn't it, and Hibernian. So, yeah, I think that's the thing.
And Everton scored against Everton as well.
Yeah, Everton as well. Yeah, we did. Yeah, when he great first touch, wasn't it? But put it away. Yeah, the backup players. It's a good point, mate. Maybe they want to just start to get their overall squad better. And if you can get an upgrade on, and this is bang on from you. Maybe he's nervous to bring on a Chambers or a Dendoncker in certain times. Maybe he's nervous to bring on a Traore. And if you can get a player in that is a better backup to Kamara or a better backup to, whether that's, I think we've got a few in terms of centre half, but, better backup right back or something, then I think he might well do that. I'm really interested to see what will happen. We've not really had an opportunity to see what Monchi's all about, really. And we've been told he's the absolute business, and we were so excited to get him on board. We finally got the Monchi on our back. Apologies, sorry. So let's see what he's all about. Who's he going to bring in? He's going to get that little black book out. He's got phone numbers in there that no one else has got. So he's going to ring them.
Yeah. A few people mentioning kind of the youth players and letting Philogene Bidace go, and obviously Ramsey and Archer. But I think partly was the FFP and partly the players wanted to go out. So, putting the buyback clauses help them, if they go off and do well. I think Philogene's actually probably at the moment got the better chance of potentially getting bought back. Yeah, Sharik said, remember when we didn't sign players last January? It was because we were waiting for the summer. Then in the summer, we were waiting for January. Yeah. It's always the way, mate. It's always the way. We'd sign everyone if we could, and I'm sure managers would if they could as well. Clive said, Tierney is the only British signing Unai has ever signed, allegedly. Is there any truth in Arsenal sniffing around Louise for 100 quid? 100 million, I think he means. I mean, I'm sure they'll be interested, but whether they're going to stump up that money to pay for him, I don't think they've got the money to do that, because they obviously spent quite a lot in the summer window. So it's going to be difficult for them to stump up the money. But I'm pretty sure they'll be interested in the summer.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think there's an opportunity for them to then dangle the some cash and Emil Smith Rowe carrot to us?
I just don't think we'll take that option. I think Louise is way too important for us now at the moment to do anything like that in January. This is what I mean. You know, unless like Marine Boy says there, you're going to tempt someone from like the French league or the Portuguese league or one of those leagues where they, you know, the clubs kind of need the money. You're just not going to get a big first team player to leave in January from a team that's challenging for the top 6. It's just not going to happen.
And Villa won't need to sell away at all. We've got
No.
on a contract, so yeah. Power's in our hands.
Exactly, in the words of Paddy McGuinness. Let's talk Aston Villa women just not just before we finish, because that's disrespectful. But yeah, wanted to give some focus to Aston Villa ladies team because they got the win against who was it? Was it Sheffield United in the Continental Cup? They won last Wednesday. In the Conti Cup, they won 5-0, which got them a bit of confidence. Yeah. And then yesterday they got an excellent 2-0 victory away at Bristol City. Left it late, I think they did. But it was an own goal, and then Ebony Salmon, who's recent signing, got the kind of clinching goal to make it 2-0. And that's a huge result, isn't it, for the club and for Carla Ward?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive, and maybe this can kickstart the season for the Villa women. Yeah, you're right. It was a good win in the week, wasn't it? A good 5-0 win. Again, obviously massively expected to win, but you know, Bristol City are the other kind of like team at the bottom of the league with Villa. I think they're on equal points now, but Villa have got a better goal difference. So probably a game you'd think if you're going to have a chance of getting your first win of the season, but you know, 77 minutes it took for Villa to get the goal. In the end, they got the 2-0 victory. Had, I think, pretty much 70% of possession, 3 times as many shots. So you know, it was Villa's game basically in terms of having the ball and creating opportunities. But that first win now, can we kick on? Because it was such a good season last season, and I felt like the trajectory of both the women's team and the men's team were both massively sort of, you know, on the up and similar sort of lines. So it's been sad this season to see the men's team doing so well and the women's team massively drop off. And Carla Ward's done a great job. She really has. And it's sad to see her again getting questioned about, you know, is she the right person to take us forward? So great news for her. Great news for the team. Might be able to get a bit of confidence in there and see if they can kick on now.
Exactly. And I think, you know, like I've said before, the crowds are coming to the women's game. The money is now getting much better in the women's game. But with all those things becomes more scrutiny. And, you know, I'm sure Carla Ward wouldn't have not expected to be put under pressure, because that's what happens. You know, they're paying players more money now. Obviously, it's nowhere near what the men's team are playing. It probably won't get to that level. But that being said, they're professional footballers now, and it has to be. You have to be judged by that standard. So, you know, I'm pretty sure she would be expecting it. But yeah, it's brilliant for them to get the result. And I'm just going to pull up the FOTMob of their fixtures, because it's nice to see like a couple of greens on there and a couple of clean sheets. Like you say, confidence building to beat Sheffield United women, but still a good situation there. And then they've got West Ham women away on Sunday, which is another potential winnable game. West Ham women sitting in 9th, Villa sitting in 11th. And then they've got Blackburn in the League Cup again, and then Everton at home. So they'll be really looking to string, you know, I guess they'd be looking at maybe 4, but at least 4 points from those 2 league games, but hopefully 6 points, because then that takes them nicely into, you know, Man City women on the 9th of December, which is another test. But I believe Man City women lost the other day, so maybe they're a bit less formidable than they have been. They've lost the last 2 actually in the league, so you know they'll be targeting picking up, I would say, 7 to 9 points from the next 3 league games, which puts them in a much better position in the league. And yeah, maybe it's around some of the settling in of players that they've signed and getting them up to full speed. Maybe that's been more of a case, and maybe just a little bit of patience was needed.
And when you're playing the next 2 teams above you in the league in the next 2 league games, there's a real opportunity. Both teams are only a point ahead of Villa as well. So it's a real opportunity to kick on and get a bit of daylight, to put this relegation worry to bed, and then start to look at the league a bit more.
Exactly. Marine Boy said, what has changed for the ladies team last season? Something not right. And Rachel sort of said, changes in the backroom staff, player changes, tough fixtures and mistakes have cost Villa so far. So hopefully a number of those things have been put right. Gary with another one of his amazing one-liners. Salmon leapt like a big fish to score. And yeah, to be fair to them, they had a horrendous fixture list those first 5 games. Yeah, they did. And the only one I would say that was a real disappointment was probably Liverpool away. I think when they lost 2-0, I think they would probably be kicking themselves that they got beaten that one, and maybe Tottenham at home. But Tottenham are sitting in 4th at the moment, so they haven't lost in 5 games. So you would suggest that they've had a fair bit of investment. So yeah. So and Liverpool are 5th. Yeah, exactly. So two strong teams there. But yeah, let's hope that they kick on, and we'll be watching them closely this weekend when obviously for international break. A couple more questions in from the panel from the viewers. And Michael he posted this yesterday. But do you think it's time we change our DJ at Villa Park? Loves the 80s music, but we need tunes to get the crowd up, and would love to see an announcer like, I don't know, Samantha Irvin from WWE is, but like I guess a Michael Buffer type announcer. I have wondered this about the music, because I know that is it Ozzy Osbourne or
Black Sabbath, I think it is.
Yeah, that song just doesn't do it for me. Like, I think they need. I don't mind the fanfare thing, but I agree with him. I think we need better songs. I think we need a better, like. I know Everton have got Z cars and that it's iconic, but I just think we need a better one. And yeah, I agree, totally agree. And in some ways, when the team are coming out, when it does this fanfare, just don't play any music. Just let the crowd generate the atmosphere, because sometimes it just gets that whatever that Black Sabbath song is, it's crap.
Yeah, I mean, Black Sabbath obviously are Brummy icons, aren't they? I just can't see that being the best option that they could have for the team. I just can't see it, and I think Michael makes a really good point. The music could be better. They started to do a bit more like house music, didn't they? And a bit of Nathan Dorr was getting involved. And
yeah, someone said that, get Nathan Dorr involved.
Yeah, but it would be good to have something. But this is the thing, isn't it? Like, we haven't got a "You'll Never Walk Alone" or "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles" type song, have we? Or "Blue Moon," whatever. So. And I think Ghost Riders in the Sky, obviously the Johnny Cash song is brilliant in terms of Yippee-Yi-Yay, but it's probably not.
It's a bit too slow, isn't it? Yeah,
a bit too slow. So yeah. I mean, I'm open to hearing some suggestions, and I'm sure the club would be as well. If they're going to look at the crest, then maybe they'll look at the music as well. Yeah.
Gary said for the announcer, Alan Partridge is available.
That'd be good. You get Richard Madeley in, couldn't you?
What would Alan Partridge go? Aha!
Yeah. Very good. Do more impressions, mate.
Theme from Rocky, says Adamski. Luke says Hull City back in the day had an amazing announcer. I went to that away game and they had great music and atmosphere. So I think potentially something could be done, but yeah, I think sometimes like the crowd, like leaving it to the crowd and not necessarily having the crowd song, the crowd chants drowned out by some sort of music in the background. But yeah, we'll maybe like you say, Kev, it's something that they'll look to get working on. Obviously the badge they've done it twice. Maybe it is something, because it's all about the whole experience, isn't it? They're looking at, I think the lower grounds kind of chat has died down a little bit. Some people who've experienced it are quite enjoying it, and I think they're starting to improve some of the facilities for the kind of standard Holt End experience. I think Max was talking on Villa on Tour, say it's had a repaint and there's pictures and there's all sorts up in the corridor. So there's things that they can do certainly to kind of improve that match day experience, and part of it is around that whole atmosphere. So yeah, that would be something to look at. I think that is us. I think that is probably us. A little bit on Kellyman, who's got an injury. I think he's out to the new year, so that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think that's us, Kev. Another good show, mate. Another great show. Apologies, everyone, for the for my stupidness earlier on when I thought I was having technical difficulties, but basically I just had the YouTube video playing at the same time as me on the actual application that we use. So my voice was coming through 10, 15 seconds after in my headphones, and I was like, where the hell is this coming from? So apologies for that. But thank you all for watching. We'll be back with plenty more shows this week. We've got Talking Tactics coming out tomorrow with Gareth, which will be another great show. How we made it 13 wins in a row in terms of beating Fulham. I'm sure there'll be some transfer discussion. So I'll be back with transfer talk shows across the week. We might even do some sort of reaction to Ezri Konsa and Ollie Watkins if they do feature for England. So we'll be back for that. We've got a special show lined up for you next week. So please keep your eyes peeled for that. We are doing a special collaboration. Just for a little clue there for you guys. And then, of course, it'll soon be round, but we'll do match previews for Tottenham very, very soon as well. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us on the road to 3K. Kev, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone.
Up and running, and Villa Park is loud.